Welcome you to our sessions on the All-State Music for ATSSB. You're in for a treat with Dr. Scott Flood. He is the head of the music department, the instrumental department, correct? Mm-hmm. And Sam, and a wonderful player. So enjoy.
Okay. I have a packet here for you. I'm going to change the order up a little bit. Start with the slow etude, simply because I haven't played all day. You can use that as a warm-up. But this is number 29. I'm going to kind of briefly go over the packet, just give you kind of an overview, and then I'll get specific to the etudes. The packet deals a little bit more with how to prepare for etudes. You know, the practice techniques, things that will really help you in those aspects. Also, some technical aspects that I have. How many are in here are educators? Excellent. And then the rest of you, I'm assuming, are saxophonists? Right. So this kind of hits both of you. As educators, a lot of times, you know, choosing the fingering and what would be best for a situation when you're trying to help your students, and or as a saxophonist yourself. I find that a lot of times students come to me for the all-state materials or whatever, and you know, we tend to bring what our favorite fingerings are. You know, I might be a side man or I'm a bass man dealing with our B flats, A sharps. I come from the philosophy that you use the technically most proficient fingering for any given situation, and so that you need to become versed in all of them, and then it becomes a choice in any given situation. I've actually done case studies in my teaching, and I firmly believe in my choices. Everyone has their own opinion, but this page where it says technique and how you choose these fingerings, I would say probably at this point 99.9% of the times my fingering choices follow these rules, and then that other 100th of a percent time I'll deter from that sometimes for just nothing that I can actually, not a rule that I can write. It just seems like the context lends itself to a different reason. But I strongly believe in these, and you'll see them applied as we go through the etudes. On the next page, the major scales full range, which is something I have all my students do, and it has the technical rules applied to the scales. So it has the fingerings, if you can see them, I hope. Probably the little bis fingering is the hardest thing to see. Applied in suggestion there, and I'll be happy to answer any of the questions for that. Creative practice techniques. These are really important and will really come in handy in today's application to these etudes. Of how, and I just saw Dr. Demers when she was doing the French horn, also talking about the same type of thing of changing the rhythms around. Levels of practice. This is a philosophy that is my own, in the sense that students oftentimes will, I've kind of selected 3 different levels of practice. One is just that technical level, the one that all of us are most familiar with. That's when you change your rhythms around and you're basically trying to teach your fingers any of those techniques. The second one is contextual. We have this lick, you've practiced it. You can actually play it forwards, backwards, and upside down, backwards, and whatnot. But every time that you come to it in context, you miss it. Well, that's because your practice technique and your approach to that needs to change. In practice, kind of break the routines and get across the bar line will help in that. And then finally, the third level is what I call continuity and consistency. I usually make a joke with my students. It's how do you practice being consistent? And I'll turn it around and make a joke that we'll try consistently practicing. But the real point is if you're trying to be consistent, you're trying to get it right every single time, that's our job. The only way you can guarantee that you're practicing and not making a mistake to get that is slow practice. And for those students, I know you've probably heard that a million times from your directors and your teachers or whatever, but I'm here to tell you, slow practice is truly the secret to everything. And if you'll just do it, sometimes it's kind of like that medicine. You just have to take it. It may taste terrible, but you end up getting better pretty quick. That's what slow practice will do for you. Also, last thing, I just throw in something about the mental game, because I'm really big into the left and the right side of the brain, and the fact that at some point when I was around y'all's age, I didn't understand how one time I would go into a performance environment and they would say that I played like someone who was 30 years older than I am, and then the next time I would crash and bomb. And I'm going, I'm still playing the same horn, I still have the same fingers, and I didn't understand what was going on. When I realized that the mental aspect of the game, of what we do, was important, and I started focusing on a little bit of that, that's when consistency really started to come for me. For instance, I'll just say this. What's the one element that changes every single time you put your horn in your mouth? Your mental state. Aside from the climate, on your reeds, and I get the whole reed environment thing, but realize that the notes on the page are the same, the horn is still the same, the keys are in the same place, all that different stuff. But how you feel mentally, that day when you feel great and then all of a sudden you're playing wonderfully and you feel like you can conquer the world, and the next day you're upset for some reason, and a lot of times you tend to play poorly. Realize as a professional musician, that's not acceptable for us. Whether we feel good or feel bad, we still have to play great. So getting an idea on how to control your mental aspect and your nerves is something that is worth your effort. And that little bit that I put in there is actually referencing a book. I don't remember if I put it in there, but it's called The Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Galloway. It's not that many. I think it's like 120 pages or whatever. Highly recommended reading if you have not done so yet. And you'll probably need to read it a couple of times. And you'll continually get more and more out of it each time. Okay? The book caught on so much with musicians that they actually came out with an edition called The Inner Game of Music. And you'll think, oh, well, this is much more applicable to what I'm doing, because they actually are talking your craft. But honestly, the existential correlation to tennis works better than when they started talking about music. It actually kind of lost some of its power. So I would recommend The Inner Game of Tennis book. Okay, digging into the etudes. Let's start with number 29. This etude is one that is the opportunity for you to really show your expressiveness, your tone, your quality control, your vibrato.